I want to go back to something you said earlier
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the interview here. You were talking about networking, but you were
Okay.
also talking about like the investment of time and basically this concept of like what I'm gonna call the perception of overnight success.
Yes.
And so one of the things that happened for me was, I stepped out there on my own and, by year two, like I said, I'm expanding.
Yeah.
And so again, like, I always use this example, like you get together with friends, and like you talk to the dinner table, everybody's looking at you like side eye
Yep.
and they're like, how did you like overnight grow a company? And I'm like, well, it wasn't overnight, right? Like you just weren't there.
Right.
But the perception was, how did you do this overnight? And the reality is, like, to your point, networking is a lifestyle.
Mm.
Everybody, like, I just wanted for a second to talk about networking.
Yes. Yes.
I
Let's do it.
consider myself a super networker,
Okay.
but I don't do any of the traditional networking stuff that everybody thinks. Like, I do not go to networking events. I don't go to like any of the traditional, like, let's connect on LinkedIn and, have surface level conversations.
Right.
Like, all my networking is just like, you and I naturally have a relationship. We have real conversations about things,
Yep.
which lead us to, let's get down to the podcast, right? Like,
Yes.
we're talking about real life.
Yeah.
My definition of networking is this. If you called me and asked me for something, I would do it just because of our relationship. If I called you and asked you for something, you would do it just because of our relationship. No money. Like, we don't need contracts. We don't need money. Like, it's just sure, I can help you out with that because you asked me, right?
Yep.
That to me is networking. And even if I called you and said, will you do this on behalf of somebody else that you don't even know because of our relationship, you would do it, right? Like, to me, that is networking. And it's all natural and organic. Like, it's not business cards exchanging or LinkedIn share. Like, it's natural and organic.
Right.
That to me, like, you won't get a mass email from me saying like, hey, Scott Q Consulting's got, available, people, or like, we're looking to build this tangent of a business. Like, no, you will get a personalized message from me that says, hey, Jordan, I know we talked, 6 months ago. Is that initiative still on the table? Are you still looking into that? Love to, catch up and talk. Let's just talk through it. Right. Like, I'd like to see how I can help. This concept of like help first, right?
Yes.
Like, I know every entrepreneur says this, and everybody that like works 9 to 5 hates this. They're like, what do you mean you're not worried about the money? The money will follow. Help first. Like, just say, identify problems, solve problems. The money will follow. It really is that simple.
It always does. It always does. And I love your mindset about networking again, because that's been my passion.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I started Diverse Network. I was like, how can I connect everyone in my network to each other?
Yep.
And what could I do to support the multicultural community here in Columbus? What did we need, right? And what did we need access to? And the biggest thing, this is one thing that I've kind of just been on this journey of researching this problem, right? And asking young entrepreneurs, young professionals, young students, what do you need access to? What resources do you need to make your career successful? And number one thing, and I thought it would be like jobs or internship opportunities, but the number one thing that they said is mentors. Number one thing.
I would agree with that.
And so talk to us a little bit more how you developed the mindset to want to network, because not everyone is like that.
Yep.
So how did you develop that, or give some advice to people who are looking to say, hey, I want to become a better networker. And also I need to find mentors. So where do I even find mentors, and how do I get them in my life?
So a couple things on like, how do I better network, right? I would start with, okay, so again, going back to currency, like the currency of time.
Yep.
Don't waste people's time. If you ask somebody that's a true mentor to mentor you, think of it like a meeting at work. Like, come with an agenda. What are you asking them to do?
Right.
If they're a true mentor, they will oblige, but like they want some clear direction. Like, don't just schedule a coffee and talk about like sports events and things.
Yep.
Truly, like, what are you looking to get out of it?
Yeah.
They will say, they'll be like, I will make time for that. True mentors will, right? Second thing is like deeper than surface level conversations and relationships. So, you think about all the people at your job, right? Like, have water cooler talk. Again, it's sports, weather, movies. It's not like, hey, I've been in this role for a long time. I feel like I do a pretty good job.
Yeah.
But like, I really like your like honest 360 review. Like you're someone elevated at our job. I really want your feedback, and like thinking down to the, how do I put myself out there so that people notice my work, right? Like, I'm down here. It's hard to get noticed. How do I get exposure to the right people? Like, help me with that, and true mentors, again, will like go out of their way to help, because true mentors, like, that's a passion project. So they want to help people because they once were you.
Yeah.
And someone probably helped them. Like, I think about all the people that I call it reaching over the table, like reached over the table for me early in my career.
Yeah.
And out of the kindness of their heart, were like, hey, I see you, like, you got the right attitude. You're working your tail off. Like, what you're doing won't get you from here to there.
Right.
Because you don't have like these one or two little tidbits I'm about to give you for free. Right. Like it's that type of mentality.
Right.
And then like it becomes a pay it forward thing because you saw it.
Yeah.
You then start doing it.
Yeah.
I do want to bring it to the diversity piece though.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
so specific to, different cultures, like it's hard to find mentors, especially in the entrepreneur space, because we tend to not take as many risks, right?
Yeah.
And that comes from limited opportunities in the past, right? So like, I'll speak for African Americans, like there's still a lot of like first year, college grads,
Yeah.
first year, homeowners, like all sorts of things that are American staples that these are first generation people, right?
Right.
To your point, who you look to for guidance and mentorship. See, sometimes you have to come outside your culture, but sometimes it's within your culture. But like, again, like in African American culture, we're very taboo about like sharing anything about what we do, right? Like, we don't want to tell you that like we own 3 rental properties,
Right.
We don't want to tell you that we own a business, right?
Yeah.
People look at you strange, or just people. Sometimes it becomes a thing that people don't really want to see you succeed. They want to see if you fall because you're doing something outside the norm, right?
Exactly.
They're like, oh well, he's not going to make it, right? Like that proverbial first 3 months. Can you make it out there, right? Like,
Right.
Most people don't have that enough savings to support themselves to take a risk.
Yeah.
But finding mentors is tough. It's necessary. The other thing I'll say is finding decision makers to give you business, right? Like, so you might talk to people that are at your level or maybe one step above, but are they truly at the level to like sign a contract or sign for business?
Yeah.
Like to commit dollars to what you're trying to sell. That's a hard thing. And, this is why DEI is such a thing right now, because we don't have like a lot of non-Caucasian cultures don't have people in the right decision-making positions to sign ink to, to paper.
Yeah. It's very rare.
It's very rare. And that becomes a challenge to success because, again, what I tell you, people that were my first clients were folks I already knew. I just didn't realize the positions of power they had.
Yeah.
And a lot of that came from like, I'm heavy into the sport of hockey.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that look like me in the sport of hockey, right?
Right.
It grows every day, but like, quite frankly, it's not where it should
Still
be.
not.
Yeah. So, those people I knew through hockey, those networks, like I always say this, you pay for the Ivy League degree, not necessarily for the degree of the education, the network, the social network and movie really like twisted my thinking around that. Like Zuckerberg had an idea.
Yeah.
His college roommate, like instantaneously was like, let me call my dad, get us $30,000 of seed money.
Right.
And an idea.
Right. Like what?
Right.
Like I can't, I love my dad. I can't get $1,000 from him.
Exactly. Like most people don't have access to that. I don't care what network you are. Like most people don't have access to that. So that's really what the Ivy League education is all about. It's access to like resources.
Yep. That's it. And I love how you talk about like you said, like just the challenges within the multicultural communities. The Asian community is very similar and relating it to the Black community and Latino community. And we're all struggling. We're all striving for the same thing, but we're trying to break those barriers, and it's tough and it's difficult. And I'll even bring it, a little bit full circle with the Japanese American community. Before World War II, we were very entrepreneurial. We had a lot of farms, we had a lot of ports, we were fishermen. We had my great grandfather, he had a drugstore, Nishizaki drugstore.
Okay.
And so shout out to Kwan Nishizaki. And I didn't know nothing about him until I read my grandma and grandpa's biography. And then, World War II happened. So they moved to Japan. And during World War II, he had not only his house, but he had his business bombed. And so even before that, my grandpa had to put his mom on the back of his bike and bike to the bomb shelters. And I'm just thinking like that would change I couldn't imagine my business being bombed, my house being bombed, having to put my mom in the back of my bike and bike to a near bomb shelter, and just the likelihood of even me being here. And so for me, I pull a lot of those qualities traits and those character traits, perseverance, but I understand why the Japanese American culture and community played it safe afterwards. And even my grandma, she was put into the Japanese internment camps, right? And like they took billions of dollars of assets from the Japanese American community. And then now, they're put back into society. My grandma, she bought the house for $16,000 in Seattle, and now it's worth like over $600,000.
Right.
And I keep on trying to tell my dad, don't sell, please. Like, don't sell the house. because there's so much equity in the house. But that's the only house that she lived in, and she still lives in it. And it's a very that type of oppression, right? It changes your DNA,
Totally does.
changes your mindset. And so then you're taught to play it safe. The safe route is get a degree, get a job, and like, be an accountant, whatever it may be.
That's like wide breadth of like, hey, if I get laid off, I can go to the next place and get it. They all need accountants, right?
Yes.
And to your point, don't do something highly specialized. We tend to shy away from like encouraging our children to do those things, right?
Yeah.
Because limited opportunities. And to your point, like the PTSD of like having things stripped away from you, previous generations, right? Because previous generations teach and influence the current generation,
Right.
right? So, when I think about the African American experience, right? Like, the GI Bills, the, reparations in Juneteenth, right? Like the promise of 40 acres and mule, Black Wall Street, like these things have been stripped away from our previous generations.
Yeah.
Now, like, they're very much like, oh, you got a good government job? Like, just keep your head down. Don't ruffle these feathers.
Right.
Like, show up on time every day and don't say a darn thing, right?
Mhm.
That's the mentality. And you get out into a workforce and you realize that the people that make good noise, right?
Yeah.
Like, they cause good trouble. They are challenging the status quo, but in a good way. Those are the ones that are getting noticed,
Yep.
getting opportunities. You can't go to work every day, show up on time, put your head down. That won't equal success, right?
Right.
But those are our mentors. That's what's being
Yeah.
taught to us. And we wonder why we're not like accelerated at the same rate as we should.
Right. And talk to us a little bit more, because it's a challenge, being a multicultural entrepreneur, like you talked about, being African American in the IT world is very rare. And so, what are you doing to change and challenge the status quo and really lift up your community? And it's tough to put your community on your back, but what are you doing to create change in this space?
Yeah, one of my favorite things that used to happen annually, and it stopped during COVID, and I'd like to pick it up again, is I would get invited to like a career day at Northland High School. I know one of the people that's a counselor there, and she would invite me because she's like, I think this would be good for the kids to hear. And IT is a lucrative field that is like the future for society, right?
Yeah.
Like everything is technology based these days. And one of the things I really like to relate to the kids, which is very diverse, inner city school, right?
Yep.
Is there are lots of technology jobs that don't require you to even get a degree.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of jobs out there that are like a technical,
Certification.
2 years, whatever, or less, get you in the door for a very lucrative career, right?
Yep.
And the whole like the space into like contracting, right? So like, companies are very willing to take a risk on you on a contractual basis.
Right.
And if you prove yourself, then they look to hire you, like contract to hire situations,
Mhm.
right? But you can get in for very low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Like, I look at the realm of like agile and scrum certifications, product owner certifications,
Yeah.
business analysts. Like a lot of those are functional,
Right.
not technical.
Right.
So again, like you get certified, it gets in like, I'm a big proponent of like, just get the experience. I don't care if you work for free.
Yeah.
Get the experience.
Yep.
Because then you are marketable. You've proven the use case. And at that point, like get your money on the back end.
Yeah.
That's easier said, harder to do. Like
Right.
I understand you got bills today, but like it's better than sitting on the sidelines with a cert and saying, well, no one will hire me
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have experience. Right. But again, all those roles I just mentioned are like 6-figure roles
Yeah.
that don't require 4 years of education, and they
Yeah.
don't require, $200K of debt.
Right.
Like
Right.
I'd rather put my bills on a credit card for 3 months and get experience
Yep.
and get paid later than 5 years of $200,000, right?
Yeah.
And the hope.
Right. And have them pay off that debt and all these things. It's a grind. It's not, from what I've seen, it is not the dream, the American dream. That's not how we achieve it, in my opinion.
No, I'm right there with you. It's a subtle form of financial slavery. I mean,
Yes.
like people tell me about paying mortgage level, like, student loan payments.
Yeah.
So think about that. Like you're 3 to 5 years out of college, you got a mortgage in your student loan payments. You've got a mortgage in your actual mortgage probably. And then you've probably got a kid or two, which is another mortgage payment or two in childcare.
Yep.
So, we just laid out 4 mortgages and nobody has eaten.
Right. Right.
Nobody's clothed.
Right.
I
Yep.
haven't put any gas in my car. I haven't even taken my car though.
keep the electricity on. Like we haven't even talked about that. And you know, like you said, I mean, weddings are $50,000,
Yeah.
cars are $20,000 to $50,000. Like all of a sudden, we're $500,000 in debt.
Yeah.
No wonder we're working. We got to work a job because we got to pay that bill
Exactly.
every month.
Which is a stress all in of itself, right?
Yeah.
That becomes a stress of
Yeah.
how do I now like continue to like grow? I have to push myself in my career, which is a bad cycle too, because every time you go up in your career, you know, for a typical employee, right? Like you get maybe a 10% bump if you're at the same company.
Yeah.
For probably 25 to 50% more work. It's a bad cycle of like never getting out, right? Like, it's another
Yeah.
type of technical debt or debt, you know,
Yeah.
that becomes a sort of stronghold on your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know, you know, we want to increase diversity in the workplace, right?
Yep.
But what I've realized, it's a lot bigger challenge and it's going to take a lot longer. It's going to take an investment into the pipeline, the talent pipeline, and developing young professionals and entrepreneurs and leaders. It's going to take a lot longer. And that's what we're doing at Diverse Network. We're launching a development program, career development program, which I'm excited about. And we're also launching a mentorship program. And someone like you would be a phenomenal mentor. We need more people like you in that space. But not only that, so in your business, I know, you know, one of my dreams is to continue to, you know, looking into the multicultural communities and provide jobs. Like I want to, and not only just like a status quo job, but I want to provide a job that liberates them, gives them financial freedom, and allows them to do what they want to do in their life and live out their purpose, right? Talk a little bit more about, you know, what that looks like for you and what challenges that you're experiencing hiring diverse talents.
Yeah. So this is a big talk in the recruitment realm, which, you know, I know tons of recruiters. I talk to a lot of recruiters all day. And, you know, especially in like the consulting slash contractual space, right? Where it's not, you know, you're hired until basically you get fired, laid off, or you decide to leave, right? Like
Yep.
it's very much like client need based. And after the client need goes away, you may or may not like have a role
Yep.
for a given company. A lot of people don't like the risk associated with that, right? Like they
Mhm.
want to know that a year from now, I'm still going to have employment here.
Right.
Now I say that in quotations because here we sit on, you know, what's today, the 27th of January,
Right.
2023,
Yep.
and Google has laid off 12,000 people. Locally, companies have restructured and laid off like, you know, smaller scale layoffs, but still layoffs, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
the perception of security in the job is a farce, unfortunately.
Yes.
Feels safe, but the reality is like it's all at will employment, meaning
Right.
like if they have fallen hard financial times or just for whatever reason no longer want to employ you, this is not debatable. You will be gone.
Yes.
And it's highly like on a whim. Like it's not,
Right.
you know,
And it's still contract. Like,
Yeah.
like even as an employee, you're contracted.
going back to like a different type of mindset and
Right.
unbreaking these mindsets.
Yeah.
One of the things I tell people all the time, because again, sitting at dinner with friends,
Yeah.
everybody's like, I could never not know if I was going to have a check in 3 months or 6 months. I'm like, well, at least when I get hired, I know there's a need and I know
Yeah.
the duration.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Like, I don't get surprised when they're like, hey, just guess what?
They're gone.
Like, you know, we didn't have the quarter we expected. We got to do some layoffs. See you
Yeah.
next time. Maybe.
Right. Right. Right.
No, like I know there's a distinct need. There's a, you know, there's scope of work. There's a deliverable.
Yeah.
Sure, our relationship may or may not continue post that deliverable, but at least I know that. And I'm already like looking at my network and opportunities out there for me for whatever's next. Right.
Yeah. 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 And you have to have, well, sometimes the best consulting firms will even have teams that will look, you know, out
Yep.
for you for your next job so that, you know, the gap between employment is small.
Yeah. But going back to you, sorry, I want to make sure
No,
I
you're fine.
address your
Yes.
question
Yeah.
correctly. Like one of the challenging things that I have in my life is, you know, I'm 5 years into my company. I've been hiring for 4 years. I have yet to hire anybody that's not Caucasian.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, don't get me wrong, all the people that I hire are highly talented people that I love.
Yeah.
But like to your point of like giving back to our community and being able to like give them opportunities,
Yeah.
it's not that I don't talk to people in you know, diverse networks. They typically are still have their parents in the
Mhm.
previous generations in their head of like,
Yeah.
well, you've got this safe job.
Yeah.
Don't take a risk. Don't mess it up. Right.
Yeah.
Like there's this mindset of you can't take a risk.
Yep.
That would be like the worst case scenario.
Like, what
And
are you
fail.
doing?
You know, like I've seen other entrepreneurs in my family where like
Yeah.
they took a risk, they failed, they learned a lesson, but like the mindset from the previous generation was, well, he or she should have never done that in the first place.
Yeah.
They had that good paying job. Why would they take, you know, like the mindset was, I knew that wasn't going to work in the first place. Like versus like, why can't you just be supportive of the
Hmm.
process.
Hmm.
Maybe even ask, what do you need? Have
Yeah.
you considered questions, right? Like those are things on the front side that make a way bigger impact than like kind of doubting from the get go and then saying, then it becomes a self fulfilling prophecy when
Yeah.
said family member doesn't have success. Like instead of the vast amount of lessons that they learned, and they probably grew tremendously from the experience, even if it was short lived, like
Right.
a 3 month scenario, that probably spun them 10 years into the future,
Yeah.
mindset wise and
Oh
strength
my
wise.
gosh. Changes their life. This is the
Yes.
most life changing. So, well, but you talk about risk, not willing to take a risk. And, like you said, it's a challenge to hire diverse talent. And, you being a diverse entrepreneur, that's on the forefront of your mind. And I know you talked a little bit about, not willing to take a risk, but what other factors do you think prevent you from hiring diverse talent, and what are we going to do
Yeah.
about that?
So unfortunately, I don't feel like people spend enough time with themselves. What I mean by
Mm,
that is they're not seeing themselves for who they really are. So they're convincing themselves that like they don't have the skills to do this outside the framework of a job of, 8 levels of management, telling them like this is the work, these are the priorities, this is what you need to do,
yeah.
right? Like they don't feel like they have the skill set or they're not seen enough. They don't see themselves enough to realize that like I've been working 15, 20 years in a given industry or a given type of role.
Yeah.
I could totally go to another, place with my mindset, what I've seen in my different roles and be able to advise them on another viewpoint, right? Just from coming from
Yeah.
the outside, right?
Yes. Yes.
There's something that happens when you're in the same situation all the time. Like we stay in the same room all the time. We would lose perspective of like
Hmm.
other opportunities, other ideas, other thoughts of like how to solve the same problems, right?
Hmm.
There is value. And this is why companies pay like top of the pay scale for someone coming external. There's value in a new perspective. You've seen different things. You have a different, like basically perspective, right?
Yes.
Like different opinion,
Yep.
or you just seen different processes,
Yep.
different consideration because
Yeah.
everybody else is in the same closed box as you. And they're like, well, we got these 3 or 4 ways that we do things. That's it. Or the one
Right.
way.
Right. Right. Right.
So there's value in that. But going back to taking the risk, it's like, unfortunately, this is a recent epiphany for me. Like this concept of previous generations,
Yeah.
the definition of success.
Yeah.
So in, different cultures, right? Success looks different, but typically it all resides in the space of safety
Yeah.
and consistency, right?
Hmm.
I don't know if that draws from a place of like, don't call me as the parent, like looking for money after you're an adult. Like I've done my job. I don't know if that's what it draws from
Yeah.
or what, but like there's this mindset of like safety and consistency. And like, to your point, go through like the standard path of like school, job, retire,
Yep.
right? So to drive home the point, like it's being able to identify that like you are building skills every day and that
Mm,
conscious mindset, like not just networking, but like conscious mindset of every day I'm building skills.
yeah.
And if I'm not like year to year, if I haven't built some significant skill, then I need to change what I'm doing, right?
Hmm.
Because I don't know anything more valuable than investing in ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
But then having that confidence, and this goes back to previous generations, like parents drive our self perception, right?
Sure.
And if think about it, if your parents never set like any type of expectation on what success looks like, well, then you question it your whole adulthood. Am I
Yeah.
successful or not? If
Right.
my parents don't see me as successful, why would anybody else see me as successful? And hence, why do I have a voice to share
Yep.
or a thought or idea to share? Like, if my immediate family doesn't support that, like that becomes a mental hurdle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, when you talk about consulting or being a third party, vendor to an entity
Yeah.
and coming in with a new idea, a fresh new idea, and you're willing to like help usher that change, that's a hard thing to do if you don't see yourself as having an opinion to share, right?
That's good. That's really good. I think it's all about the man or woman in the mirror. It is. It's about who we see. And I know I've been working through this, even with a couple of my brothers, being able to the way that we see ourselves is very different than the world sees us.
Exactly.
And sometimes it's like 10 times below what the world sees us as. And the world sees us and they're scared of our potential, but we don't even see our potential.
So that's what I see all the time. Like in my recruitment, and this is all cultures, like there are so many talented people that I see. They have like tangible talents. Like, so there's hard and soft skills, right? Like
Yeah.
some people have very tangible talents.
Yeah.
And in their mind, though, it's not good enough. And
Right.
I'm like, no, I totally have a need for that. Like, all right,
Yeah.
like Like, no, I just don't think, anybody wants this skill that even with me sitting across the table saying I would feel
Yeah. Yep.
willing to pay for the skill.
Yes.
But I also know as a business owner and someone who hires, if you don't see it, you're not going to be able to convince anybody else. So you're
Right.
not ready yet. So that's the other
Yeah.
side of it, right?
Yeah. So it sounds like we definitely need to help, with the development. And that's why I'm so passionate about not only finding and connecting top diverse talent, but developing talent
Yeah.
and developing their interpersonal skills, developing them as a person. And I know like, I've been able to have a gift to be able to one, see it early, have that self-awareness, have that emotional intelligence, and then to also be able to transfer confidence and instill that and inspire the next generation of leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs to live in their purpose.
Yeah. So you touched on another one. Like when we think about DEI, right? If you don't have leaders above you, they're, that look like you, feel like you, come
Hmm.
from similar backgrounds, like they understand some of those insecurities and
Yeah.
they will stair step give you opportunities to like challenge yourself, put yourself out there where you will start to build the capabilities, right? But like
Yeah.
that's a conscious effort from leadership groups. And unfortunately, like not a lot of leaders are great mentors, right? Like there's two
Mm.
different skill sets.
Hmm.
A lot of times top performers get promoted to leadership. The ability to produce a tangible good is different than the ability to coach and mentor.
Yes.
And really that's what you want in leadership. You want
Yeah.
people that like aren't insecure about like their skill set. They know enough, but they're good at coaching a team that does most of the
Hmm.
work, right? Like
Hmm.
their job is strategic prioritization and setting the work for that team. But like they hire right and if they coach right, quite frankly, their job becomes a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
Those people will want to own it. They will want to like manage it and they will want to make it as optimized as possible, right? Like
Exactly.
they have to be told they will be setting the tone of like, hey, we really should have monitoring in place for this, or we should have a process in place for this, or backup plans to backup plans to backup plans. So that
Right.
like you as the leader aren't getting called on the weekend when something goes bump in the night,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. And like you talked about, like ownership, like taking ownership is a key to wealth. But
Yeah.
what a lot of people don't see is, you own assets, like physical assets. You got to own yourself first.
Like,
Own your career asset. You got to own your time, your health, and your name. And your name is your reputation, which your reputation is your brand.
it's your brand.
And if we start thinking of
Yeah.
ourselves as a brand, which we are, then we act differently.
Like, so think about this. Like, everybody loves to rock a pair of Jordans, right?
Yep.
Like they're putting on a pair of Jordans all day. That branding, right? Like it's associated with like greatness.
Yes.
But like, why can't people just wear their own brand to your point every day and facilitate that, like that consistency? Because people start to take notice. They're like, and that's how trust is built, right?
Yes.
Through vulnerability, like, and consistency.
Mm-hmm.
People see that enough, they will be like, I know what I'm getting every time I talk to Jordan. I
Yep.
know exactly what I'm getting
Yep.
because he has shown me that through vulnerability and through consistency.
Yeah.
Some of that vulnerability is that feeling that we're talking about because they're going to see you fail.
Yep.
They're going to see how you approach failure,
Yep.
how you learn to apply, right? Like
Exactly.
people don't understand the power of vulnerability.
That's it right there. That's the first step to building trust in a relationship.
Yeah.
And trust is the foundation of any
Everything,
relation.
Everything. And again, there's no money associated with vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like, but money follows vulnerability
Yep.
because of trust.
Exactly. And like you said, when you're able to identify problems and then provide a solution, solutions are worth trillions of dollars.
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah. I once heard this said, and it's true. Like you're compensated based on how many problems you solve.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about like, any organization, like jobs at the lowest rung are dictated and they're normally like, heavily micromanaged, right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I need you to do like cross this T and dot that I every
Yep.
single day consistently. And I need you to do X amount of throughput. And we monitor and report on that all the time.
Yep.
At the next level, it's like, hey, I need you to do that, but I also want you to analyze a little bit and give me some insights, right?
Yep.
As to why our business reacts the way it does. At
Mhm.
the next level, it's like, hey, I need you to mentor a little bit, coach, and also apply your knowledge that you've already gained, right? Like in the last 3 to 5 years.
Right.
And next level is like, can you manage multiple teams and work streams and prioritizations and also strategize with other departments so that we can hit global, you know what I mean? Like it keeps, and at those next levels, like it's all about vulnerability because, we're all going to come to the table, right? Like, and there's only so many dollars, there's only so much time. And we're
Mhm.
partnering on things and like everybody, like I want my initiative to get done. You want
Yep.
your initiative to get done. But like, it's all about like that vulnerability and partnership of like,
Yep.
us collectively saying this is the biggest priority for the organization and
Mhm.
then like bubbling it up to the CEO or the CIO or whoever and collectively pitching that together. And it's that vulnerability of like, this year we're doing my initiative and you're supporting me. And like, all the accolades are going to show on my department, but like the reality is I'm going to make sure to let people know that like Jordan, you're a huge part of that. And
Yeah.
next year, like it kind of becomes politics, right? Like
Yep.
from a vulnerability standpoint, like now we're going to get your initiative across the table, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to pitch that and collectively like say why that's a big win for the organization, right?
Exactly.
A lot of people don't have that mindset. They have a
Yep.
very much a, if it doesn't put money in my pocket,
Yep.
or if it's not something that like I came to the table with,
Yep.
I don't want to do it. I see so many organizations like fail to like put the ego aside.
Yes. Yep.
Like
That's
just put
it.
the ego aside.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all about, what's in it for me. How do I benefit? And if I'm not benefiting right now,
Walk
today,
away from the table. Yep.
that's not for me.
Yeah.
People need to see the long term. But as we're wrapping up here, let's finish with some advice. What would you give to a young entrepreneur or young professional getting their career started and looking to make something of themselves and be successful in life?
Yeah. My biggest thing is start with defining the why. What is your own personal why? Have that rock solid in your mind, because in the hard times, that's what you'll fall back on, and that will keep you moving. The second thing is, as we mentioned, getting good mentorship is a big thing, and being vulnerable enough to ask for it,
Mhm.
and be very concise with what your expectations are for that mentor. The frequency of how often you want to meet, like how you want them to help coach and guide you. Even the level of transparency and authenticity you want, like from a feedback standpoint, because that's a turn off for
Yeah.
mentors. Is you say you want feedback, but every time I give you feedback, you're like, I don't think that's how I am. Like,
Right.
no, like if you picked a mentor, that you should trust them enough to give you feedback, right?
Mm.
And last but not least, like the change in the mindset of, failure, right? Like around
Mm.
failure and risk, and just understanding that if you look around the world, anybody that's doing anything, and especially things that like you're looking to get to one day, they probably are failing often,
Mhm.
sometimes publicly. And guess what? They pick themselves up every single time. Like, believe it or not, one of the things that is etched into my memory is Mariah Carey, the one year failing, given the like her background music stopped.
Right.
And it was a terrible like performance. And the next day I just thought to myself, like, Mariah Carey just had the biggest failure ever. And guess what? She's still Mariah Carey. She learned from it. I'm sure she's making adjustments. But at the end of the day, her bank account didn't change. Like her
Mhm.
notoriety, her place in history, she's still Mariah Carey. And so I think if we all had that mindset of like, we're going to fail sometimes, but learn the lesson and apply it quickly. Like jump back on the horse. Don't sit there and sit in the wallows of, I fail. No, like learn the lesson and apply the next time. There's always a tomorrow. Always.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Love it. Those are all words of wisdom from our man Chuck. And thank you just so much for being able to just drop those gems. So good. So good.
Appreciate the opportunity, man.
Yeah. And last but not least, tell us how can people get connected to you? Give a little plug for who Scott Q Consulting is and how people can join you in your mission.
Yeah. So Stock Q Consulting, mainly in the project delivery space. We have PMO resources. So business analysts, scrum masters, we have project managers, program managers, heavy focus on the retail space, heavy focus on the BPO or call center space and the technology that supports that. Plethora of knowledge and development resources as well to support any initiative and consulting. You can reach us at scottq.consulting. That's Scott, SCOTT, Q.consulting, no.com. Or you can reach out to me directly, C as in Charles, Scott, at scottq.consulting, no.com.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for just being here and appreciate the time that you take and looking forward to getting you involved and, maybe even being a mentor here at Diverse Network.
No.
That'd be awesome.
I'm all for it. I'm saying it on record. I'm all for it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So, well, thank you so much for our time. Thank you everyone for just joining us today. And remember to be you, don't be afraid of taking risks and build something for yourself. We'll see you next time.